They control more than a third of the country and have encountered little resistance in their quest to bring down the president. White House spokesman Mike McCurry said the United States called for rebel government negotiations. In Zaire southeast, fighting continued yesterday. UN staff reported gunfire and explosions near the city of Lubumbashi. U.S. troops stand by in Brazzaville, Congo, and Libreville, Gabon, in case the rebels force an evacuation of Americans from the U.S. Embassy. The Mill-to-Mill program is one of the most successful tools America offers emerging nations of Eastern Europe as they make the transition to democracy. In a recent interview with 21st TACOM's Gail McCabe, the U.S. ambassador to Slovenia, Viktor Jakovic, described the Mill-to-Mill program as a bridge where new independent republics learn the procedures of the U.S. military and NATO.
And those are things that in all these East European countries we really need to have to get these countries prepared, if not for eventual entry into NATO, then at least for a familiarization with the Western security umbrella.
As NATO begins serious talks about expanding its membership and determining who will receive a coveted first-round invitation, Slovenia anxiously awaits the outcome. Ambassador Jakovic addressed the issue of NATO membership and its importance to this former part of Yugoslavia.
So they feel that joining NATO or any of these other Western institutions is a return to their base, their cultural base, their political base. Along with that, there's the fact that Slovenia has never been a state before. I mean, you have to go back thousands of years to find an independent Slovenian entity. In modern times, it has not been a state before. It has always tried to find its, define its security in terms of larger entities. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, as I mentioned before, or the Yugoslav Federation. With those things no longer around and having dissolved, Slovenia now is looking for something larger to belong to for protection, for security, and I think that's natural.
Blowing whistles and chanting slogans, an estimated 5,000 local national employees of the U.S. Army took to the streets of Mannheim, Germany yesterday. This is the 6th week of protests against what the strikers call a lack of job security and an unfair severance pay offer. A number of local national positions face elimination as the American military presence in Germany shrinks.
That's the army, that's the government, not only the American government, it's the same also the German government who doesn't support us in this case, or let's say who try to save money. And we have people, the people have families, they must earn money, so we have to do something for our people to get at least better conditions out.
Negotiations between usurer officials and the local national labor unions are slated to begin next week. Well, last night we watched usurers' official welcome committee at work as it greeted soldiers coming into Germany. However, the 64th Replacement Detachment does more than pass out smiles. It makes sure soldiers get in process. Tonight, specialist Pam Voss shows us what this information overload is like through the eyes of a soldier.
Private Jason Poe hasn't seen much of the Army, hasn't seen his new unit, and certainly hasn't seen a whole different country.
I couldn't believe it because every time I seen Germany or Europe, it's been on TV. So it was really, I was really, you know, astonished by it. I was like, I couldn't believe I'm still here. I still can't believe I'm here.
Arriving for the first time to Germany, he follows in the footsteps of all soldiers coming to Europe. The routine of in-processing.
Follow that sign to the building with the big one on it. It's the one we do. You PCF in Army also? Follow the soldier.
Jason hurdles the typical obstacles at the 64th Replacement Detachment.
Okay, once you do that, you return to this building. You have enough. Next briefing will be at 10:30. Next briefing will say, all it's going to say is, let you know the status of your assignment. They say the status of the assignment, we hear 64.
Enduring the long process of waiting and waiting and waiting and breathing a familiar sigh of relief hearing his duty assignment confirmed, Jason learns another Army routine. At the 64th Replacement Detachment in Rhein-Main, Germany, Specialist Pam Voss, AFN News.
30% of Air Force members who've committed suicide were either undergoing or had recently faced court-martial or non-judicial disciplinary action before their decision to take their life. A recent amendment to an Air Force instruction wants to bring that percent down to 0. Senior Airman Jolene Van Beek explains.
Air Force members facing some type of disciplinary action may feel as though the world is closing in on them. The amendment aims to identify and treat those members who are feeling suicidal with a limited privilege suicide prevention program,
which for the first time provides some protection to individuals who can go to mental health care practitioners when they've got emotional problems related to a UCMJ action and have an opportunity to provide confidential communications that for the first time are protected in a limited fashion from being used against them.
Military members facing legal actions have to deal with the embarrassment, loss of esteem, loss of rank and pay, loss of jobs, and even loss of freedom. A total change in status. Errors in judgment that might have seemed like the right thing to do at the time can have a tragic outcome. One example is the suicide of Tech Sergeant Thomas Mueller from Spangdahlem Air Base, Germany. He took his own life during a lengthy court-martial in which he was accused of faulty maintenance of an F-15 that resulted in the pilot's death.
He's going week after week of people not talking to him, people not being sure if they can talk to him, recognizing that he's probably embarrassing his family, his friends. He's broken the trust and the faith. We've all been told about our family, our Air Force family, taking care of one another, but he's standing on the outside of that. And I think that in that case, he didn't feel that he could talk to someone.
Although confidential communication is also provided by the defense counsel or chaplain, this initiative just adds another avenue for suicide-prone members to get the help they need. Senior Airman Jolene Van Beek, Air Force News, Ramstein Air Base, Germany.
Another part of the amendment requires investigative officers to inform commanders and first shirts that someone in their unit is being questioned. And if the individual suffers emotional problems as a result of that investigation, they'll be referred to the commander for help. Well, time now for weather, where hopefully we can see some improvement over the weekend. For that, we turn it over to Air Force Staff Sergeant Debbie Swan.
Thanks, Kim. As you can see from tomorrow's forecast map, the front that brought Central Europe ugly weather today will continue moving southward. This means cloudy skies, rain showers, and thunderstorms for those of you in northern Italy and throughout the Balkan states. Those of you in the Balkans will also have gusty winds. In Norway, a new front moving into the area will bring you occasional light rain. In the UK, Germany, and the Benelux, it'll be mostly cloudy. And those of you in Spain, Portugal, and Turkey will have fair weather. Now, as far as tomorrow's temperatures go, I'm not forecasting much in the way of change for most of you. Highs in northern and central Europe will range from the mid-40s in Norway to the lower 60s in southwestern Germany. Southern Europe will have highs ranging from the upper 50s in the Balkans to the mid-70s in western Spain. And over in Turkey, highs will range from the upper 30s in the mountains to the low 60s along the southern coast. Over in the Portuguese Azores, it'll be mostly cloudy with occasional light drizzle and highs in the mid to upper 60s. That's tomorrow's forecast. Now, let's take a quick look at the weather where you are. Tonight's forecast goes out to the wonderful folks at Hanau's Detachment 2 of the 7th Weather Squadron.
Federal jobs require employees buy work-related goods, a hassle for employees who must use the government's interest fund for money. By the end of this fiscal year, the Department of the Army will eliminate the interest fund and implement the Impact or government Visa card. Pam Proper has more.
The government Visa card or Impact system will save the government money by eliminating the requirement for cash, which sits interest-free in thousands of office vaults around the world. Paperwork will be cut down to a minimum, and government workers will get their goods faster. Impact is part of a larger plan to streamline the way government does business.
The reason behind the reduction or elimination of imprest funds goes in conjunction with Vice President Gore's National Performance Review, reinvention of the government, and to bring the Army more online with commercial business practices. Imprest fund is basically a whole lot of money throughout the Department of Defense that's kept out of the Treasury.
The impact system has been in place in the United States for over a year now. As employees are trained in Europe, the cash system will begin disappearing this summer. Instead of tying up days shuffling paperwork through layers of bureaucracy, purchasing goods with a government visa can be made in hours. Adding a government visa card will give a whole new meaning to the phrase, "I need it yesterday." Reporting from Sheikh Belgium, Pam Proper, AFN News.
Those who live in Central Europe must look to the Far Eastern Mediterranean to find USAFE's best airmen. Extensive schooling, superior leaders, and an understanding family all contributed to this one man's achievement. Airman Kimberly Lesser introduces us to Senior Airman Paul Schaaf.
The way I won this award is by just doing my job and having a good supervisor, because this wouldn't have been done if the supervisor didn't put me in the award. A lot of people believe that people win the award. You do the tasks and you do what it takes to meet the requirements for Airman of the Year or Airman of the Quarter or any award program, but it takes a supervisor or somebody above you to actually nominate you and to write the package for you to win that award.
The package written for Senior Airman Schaaf was originally 2 pages long and had to be condensed into 1. According to him, all he did was do his job, which included a few TDYs and going to school. He went on roughly 6 TDYs and took over 15 classes, including Airman Leadership School. Despite the amount of time he's put toward work, Senior Airman Schaaf says he's received tremendous support from his family.
My wife was very supportive because with all the off-duty activity I do at the kennels, the EST team, the squadron, there's a little time sometimes for family, and she understands that, and I thank her for that.
Food service is serious business for those who strive to offer their clientele the best. One way to determine just how fine an Army dining facility is, see if it carries the Philip A. Connolly stamp of approval. In Vilseck, Germany, the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry Dining Facility proudly boasts its 5th Corps level award and will soon compete at the USER level. Specialist Jamie Jones takes a look at what makes this eatery one of the best in the military.
3 square meals and a pleasant atmosphere. Workers at 2-2 Infantry Dining Facility know that's their job, and they don't expect any special thanks, except once a year, when the Philip A. Connolly contest rolls around.
Because really, truly, what this is all about is offering good food service to the soldiers all the time, not just for an evaluation day inspection. We're looking for safety. We're looking for food preparation. We're looking for courtesy to the diners. We're looking for food quality and a food variety. We're looking at nutrition. We're looking at attitude of the cooks, command support. All these things all go into this competition because you need all that to have a good operation and to be recognized as the winner.
Does that mean the staff takes extra steps to make your meal better on one day out of the year?
They've got to be aware that I could come back at any time and look, because if it's a very close competition and it's a toss-up between a couple of different units, there's a very good chance that I'll come back and look on a weekend and just see what the operation on a day-to-day basis looks like.
The 2-2 Infantry Dining Hall is in the running for the best large garrison dining facility, and the end result could very well be a win for USER level. But for these workers, it's just another day on the job. From Rose Barracks in Vilseck, Germany, I'm Specialist Jamie Jones, AFN News.
World War II produced many heroes, to include one man by the name of Vernon Baker. A former officer and winner of the Congressional Medal of Honor, Baker relived some precious moments when he visited some familiar hills near Livorno, Italy. His name means so much to the people he served and worked with that we have 2 stories on Baker this evening. The first one takes us to the small town of Montagnoso, Italy, where Baker became an honorary citizen. From there, we travel to an honorary dinner at Camp Darby, Italy. Specialist Dan Hendricks has our first report.
Vernon Baker, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, whose heroic actions 52 years ago in World War II are being recognized as he becomes an honorary citizen of Montagnoso.
This is the guy who was with him on patrol. He got wounded.
Captain Harry Cox, a man who graduated from Officers Candidate School with Vernon Baker in 1942, describes this occasion.
This may be one of the most important days I've ever been through in my life because of the combination of all the emotions and the people involved and what have you, the emotions of people of a country that was liberated, and it's something that may be the highlight of my life to be part of.
After leaders of Montañoso confirmed his honorary citizenship, Mr. Baker recounts his memories of the area for the community.
What I'm doing, I saw.
He says in Italian, I saw Montañoso 52 years ago, but it was not as nice as it is today. People from Montañoso are now very happy. And so much of that happiness can be traced back to Vernon Baker, an officer, a soldier, who so bravely fought for his country and the way of life Montañoso leads 52 years later. Specialist Dan Hendricks, AFN News.
It was a special day for the soldiers and airmen of Camp Darby as the installation played host to a man that has meant so much to the U.S. and Italy.
Please join me in a warm welcome and salute to Mr. Vernon J. Baker, a true hero, a great soldier, and a great man.
Following a standing ovation, Mr. Baker passed on the opportunity to give a speech, instead opting to meet and talk with everyone that attended the luncheon held on his behalf. Later, he did have an opportunity to tell AFN a little bit about that day 52 years ago.
I never woke up any morning to be a hero, to tell you the truth, because the first time that I saw one of my men die a violent death, I realized, hey, this is no game. We're here. This is dead serious stuff. And I put in the back of my mind that I'm going to get through this war. I'm not going to be one of those.
A true American hero, Baker received the Distinguished Service Cross in 1945 for his actions on that day. And in January of this year, it was upgraded to the Medal of Honor.
All I can see is that I was a soldier. I did a job, and I was rewarded. And I went back and took my retirement and went up in the hills.
But the men and women of Camp Darby will remember Vernon Baker long after he flies home to the hills of his Idaho home. Tech Sergeant Ron Perzuka, AFN News.
Now to the wide world of European sports and a unique Sunday morning activity in northern Germany. It's not in the running for Olympic consideration yet. In fact, only a few people even know the sport exists. For a look at how athletes in East Friesland spend their weekend, here's Mark Rossman.
East Frisians call this sport Bossel. They should know they invented it about 400 years ago. It's street bowling to us. The object is to roll the wooden ball as far as possible and try and stay out of the gutter. A distance of 200 yards is considered a good toss, but road and weather conditions can be a factor, and each player has his own technique. The main thing is keeping the ball straight, says this player. The best way is to roll it off your thumb and index finger. The Bossler's telescopic sight is the man posted in the middle of the road. It's not exactly high-tech, but it does the trick. Many a record toss has passed through his legs. But the big sponsor has yet to take notice.
Most German sports shops stock all kinds of balls for virtually every kind of sport imaginable. There's basketballs, volleyballs, softballs, hardballs, tennis balls, and even boule balls for that rather unusual French sport. But Bossler balls are difficult to find anywhere. Do you by chance carry Bossler balls?
Nein, tut mir leid. Sowas führen wir nicht. So, rule number 2, don't lose the ball. If you do, timeout is called to go fishing for it. There it is. To us, it's more than just a hobby, says this avid Bossler. The locals here take this sport very seriously. There are leagues for the various age groups, and people here can hardly wait for the Wednesday newspaper to come out when the latest results and standings are listed. Meanwhile, back at the Bossler's clubhouse, the trophy case is practically loaded, and so are most of the Bosslers. It's time to celebrate another victory, or drown the agony of defeat. Mark Rossman, European Journal.
Hi, Staff Sergeant Randall West calling from Benin, Africa, Med Flag 97-1. I'd like to say hello to my wife, Penny, my son, Michael, and my daughter, Kayla, back at Lakenheath, England, and all the members of the 48th Dental Squadron at Lakenheath.
I'm Specialist Hernandez here in Benin, Africa, Med Flag 97-1. I'd like to say hi to my husband, Specialist Boschman, and I hope you're having fun watching Tori and Lundy. Tell them hi and I love them. See you soon. Bye.
Welcome back. The Geilenkirchen NATO Air Base, located in northern Germany, is the home base for the Airborne Early Warning Force. Tech Sergeant Les Doncaster, a team member on the AWACS, fills us in on his mission and what it's like being part of a multinational crew.
My name is Les Doncaster, and I'm the display technician on the NATO aircraft. And what I do is take care of the mainframe computer as well as the terminals. I've been in NATO for 1.5 years, but I've been flying the E-3 aircraft for 12 years. The best part of my job, the independence, where you don't have somebody looking over your shoulder all the time. You're your own boss. You're the expert on this system when you're flying, and that's kind of nice to have that responsibility. On an average flying day, probably around 6 in the morning, showtime. If there is such an average thing, it can be any time. And the technicians come out to the airplane a half an hour before everybody else to get things set up and do their pre-flight so that when the rest of the crew comes out, the aircraft's ready to go. For me personally, the first hour of the flight's kind of busy getting the parameters set up for the computer. And then after that, it's basically a monitoring situation. And then a little bit busy the last hour of the flight. And then basically reversing course when you land, turning everything in, and you discuss what happened on the sortie, if there was something you can change to make it better. It requires a lot of teamwork to pull off a flight, and it amazes me that how everybody pulls together and acts as a team and does their share, and even you don't get the it's not my job, I'm not going to do it sense of accomplishment when you're done with the day that you were able to go up there and do what you're supposed to do, and it actually meant something because a lot of other people are depending on your air picture to see what's going on. I don't think a lot of people realize whenever there's a conflict, the E-3 is always there, and ships and ground agencies and a lot of other people depend on the information that we're able to pass along. A chance to really do what you're paid to do.
Hi, this is for Staff Sergeant Michael Schroeder in Bosnia. Hi, we love you. We miss you.
The Olympic Development Program scouts out the best soccer players American high schools have to offer. Now, some American kids living overseas are getting their chance to play for this renowned program. Army Sergeant Becky Pinkoff reports on some teenage Olympic hopefuls from the 409th VSB who are subjecting themselves to soccer camps in hopes of getting noticed.
11 teenagers from Vilseck passed, dribbled, and shot their way to the States for the chance to show off their soccer skills and possibly earn a spot on a future Olympic team.
What we're trying to do is try to establish a team that we can field to try to win the gold medal in the year 2004. So we're looking at kids right now that at these little camps that we're having that will have the, I guess, the intensity to continue working at it and make the Olympic team. And so it is on their own. They have to earn the money to fly. We have 2 tryout camps here in Europe.
Intensity, skill, concentration, you name it. These soccer players will need it all. They'll be looked at by U.S. colleges and Olympic development soccer coaches whose regional picks often move directly into U.S. national and Olympic teams. Sergeant Becky Hancock, AFN News.
The high school Christian group Club Beyond shares the light of Christ through humanitarian projects. The Benelux chapter of Club Beyond learned what it means to walk the walk and not just talk the talk during a pilgrimage to the Ukraine. As Senior Airman Steve Miller reports, their trip lasted only a week, but their work there should last a lifetime.
The many projects on hand for the 32 SHAPE and AFN students include building a tool shed and renovating the day room at a local nursing home, as well as rebuilding the gym at a boarding school. The students worked 8 hours a day for the entire week, sanding, painting, hammering, and scraping. The kids had a full week.
Just hard work and accomplishing most everything we set out to do, but I think the big thing was just kids learning more about Christ and what it means to be a servant. So yes, I would say a lot was accomplished.
Mrs. Rue adds how important trips like this are at this point in a kid's life.
They've gained a lot from it in that they've learned how to serve and give themselves away, but in return I think they're realizing that the Ukrainian people have really given back to them and loved them and just appreciated them so much being here.
The students also had the chance to mingle with some of the Ukrainians while working. This interaction brought a smile to everyone's face.
It feels great because it's like I get to see the people smiling, and it just feels great giving what you have to them and helping them out. I like it. It's fun.
The Club Beyond Ukrainian Service project proved to be successful, not only by the amount of work that the students accomplished, but by the knowledge and friendship that was gained from the trip. Senior Airman Steve Miller, AFN News, Chernihiv, Ukraine.
Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Thank you once again for watching. Before we head into the weekend, we leave you with a final look of Med Flag 97-1 in Benin, West Africa. Good night and have a great weekend.